Welcome to Detroit. Doesn't matter if you have one ass cheek and three toes. I will beat your ass. You can drown them. And that's what we gotta be. That's who we have to be. Because that's our domain. That is our domain. Because we'll tread water as long as it takes to fucking bury you.
Takes the snap, turns, gives to Montgomery, right side, end zone, touchdown, Detroit Lions! Yes.
We are driven by Detroit.
Hello, Detroit Lions friends, fans, and family members. Welcome on back to yet another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. I'm your host, David T. Pike. And as always, we're diving on in. So, folks, obviously, after a game like yesterday, you have to think a little bit, you have to reflect, you have to try and rationalize, if there's a word that you could possibly use in this situation, a way to move forward. You have to. Because, you know what? Am I still pissed off? Absolutely, I'm still pissed off. I guarantee you, a lot of other Lions fans are still pissed off. But you have to take that anger, and you have to take that frustration, that disappointment, and you have got to find a way to do something with it other than just stewing in your own juices, so to speak. Because I'm only telling you this right now. It's not going to get, this feeling is not going to go away until we see consistent, dominant performances from this Detroit Lions offense. It has to happen. And I'm not talking about just one game. I'm not even talking about just 2 games. I'm talking about at least 3 to 4 games where you consistently are putting out a dominant showing and performance out on the damn field. You have to do that. Otherwise, this is not going to go anywhere. And the reason why it's not going to go anywhere is because of what we all know, what the NFL knows, what commentators know the Lions have. You cannot get away with the offensive type of performances as in a collective unit that the Lions have been putting out on screen over the first 8 games, of which you've only had one dominant performance. You cannot go away and say, hey, you know what, we're okay right now, there's no reason to be concerned. You can't do that. You can't do that and look at the fact that the Lions are struggling to score points. They're struggling to convert third downs. They're struggling to get their offense into rhythm. You can't do that when you consider the fact that this offense has probably got the greatest collective, collection of talent out of any offensive unit in the entirety of the NFL. You can't do it. I don't care who the hell you are. I'd argue that point with anybody in the Lions building. I would argue it with Dan Campbell. I'd argue it with Brad Holmes. I'd argue with John Morton. I'd argue it with anybody. I don't give a damn. You've got Jared Goff, a top 5 quarterback. You got Jahmyr Gibbs, the best running back in the NFL. You got David Montgomery, still a top 20 running back in my opinion. You got Jamel. You got Amon-Ra St. Brown. You got Isaac Tesla. You got Khalif Raymond. You got Sam Porter. You've got all of these offensive weapons, and the offensive output that we're seeing is not matching what that talent level is supposed to be at. It's not even coming close. You can talk about how, you know what, we're this close, we just need to tighten this down, we just need to, correct this problem, we just need to, refine this little thing. Call it what you will. I don't care. The point of the matter is that what we're seeing is not indicative of what we should be seeing. Everybody and their brother knows that this Lions offense has the prowess, has the talent, has every case and ability to be scoring 30 to 40 damn points a game. And when you go out against a Vikings defense yesterday that the week prior against the Chargers got absolutely gashed on the ground, got 30 plus points scored up against it, and you literally struggle to get 24 points. Because let's be honest with ourselves here. We got down into the red zone area, what was it, like 3 different times? And 2 out of those 3 times, 4 times, because I need to make sure I have my numbers right here. We got down to that red zone area like 4 different times, and 3 out of the times, or 4 times out of that, we got those points. One time it was blocked or somewhere close to that with the field goal. But it's like, listen, every single time we're getting close to the red zone, we should be getting touchdowns. That's what we should be doing. That's what we've come to expect because we know that's what they can do. And I've got my own personal bone to pick with John Morton. Have it, not going away anywhere. Not at least for a while until, like I said, we see those dominant performances. But if you want to talk about something that right now the Lions should be absolutely 100% engaged in doing, trying to fix or bring some stability to this damn offense, you got to call the Tennessee Titans and you got to get Kevin Zeitler back. You have to do it. You have to do it. I don't care. The entire problem that I keep seeing that is not allowing this offense to truly get going, other than the fact of John Morton's poor play calling, is the fact that our interior offensive line is not able to freaking get any sort of push in the run game, or it's not getting enough time for Jared Goff to feel comfortable back there to be able to survey the field and do what we know this offense can do, which is take advantage of those intermediate throws over the middle where we have just absolutely been killing people over the last couple of years. And you know what? Much like how with John Morton, I've tried to put a positive spin and I've tried to be optimistic. I've tried to have that viewpoint of like, you know what? Just give it time. Just give it time. It'll eventually correct itself. It'll eventually come around. Time's up. The ability to say, hey, you know what? We're just going to continue to wait it out because eventually it's going to get better. Can't do that no more. Your time is up. The party's over. The ride is ended. You've got to make a change and you got to make it damn fast. Bringing back Kevin Zeitler would absolutely do that, in my opinion. 100%. And I'll tell you why it would do it. Plus, I'll also tell you why it's necessary, other than the simple fact that, our interior offensive line right now is just not doing a good job. We need another experienced person in the middle of that offensive line to help stabilize it. And with the fact that we now know that we're not going to have Christian Mahogany for the next, at least 8 games potentially, because according to what Dan Campbell said, he's going to be out until late December, and since we just literally started November, you're looking at the next 8 games. That's pretty much the rest of the season. Unless you get into the playoffs, which at this point is not a foregone conclusion, especially not after what we just saw against the Vikings. You need another experienced guy in the middle. You need to bring somebody in who can stabilize that unit. You need somebody who can come in and help. Kevin Zeitler can do that. Kevin Zeitler was here last year. He was literally one of, if not the best guard for the entirety of the NFL, according to Pro Football Focus, PFF. Right now, he is currently wasting away in Tennessee where the Titans aren't doing anything. They're not going to the playoffs this year, not even a damn close to chance of prayer in hell. They're not going to be able to do anything with it. And it's like, okay, here. You lost Kevin Zeitler in the offseason because you weren't willing to pay him the money. Even though it was a 1-year, $9 million contract, which is kind of funny in my opinion because that was the exact same type of contract in terms of overall value that the Eagles wound up giving Zadarius Smith. A 1-year, $9 million contract. So, Kevin Zeitler leaves Detroit. He goes to Tennessee. Tennessee's absolutely just, falling harder than panties on prom night in terms of being able to win any sort of games. What's the best thing you can do to try and stabilize that line? You bring back Kevin Zeitler. Why do you bring him back? Because he is going to make an impact. He is going to help this offensive line to start actually being dominant again. Because right now, you've got 2 guards that are simply not experienced enough to handle the entire, process of what this offensive line requires of it. And don't get me wrong, they've done a valiant job of trying to do it up until this point. But the point of the matter is, it's not cutting the mustard. When we cannot run the game, the way we want it to in terms of, hey, you know what? Let's get our rushing attack going. Let's get our passing game going. Let's get the play action game going. And the reason why we can't do that is because the interior of the offensive line cannot hold up long enough to make sure that, hey, you know what? We can run the ball and have a dominant performance there, which then opens up the play action game, which then opens up the ability to throw the intermediate passes, the deep ball passes, helps us get up those freaking exotic trick plays that we're so used to seeing. It all starts up front. We can't get anything going because the offensive line cannot simply do the job that it's required to do. And yes, you're asking a hell of a lot about the offensive line. You really are. But they know that's the requirement. They know that's what they have to do. Hank Fraley knows it. The offensive line know it. A lot is expected of them. But since you're not doing it, okay, now we need to do something to fix the problem. Now we need to bring in somebody who can help. Kevin Zeitler can do that. You trade back for Kevin Zeitler, which at this point, he's a 35-year-old guard who's still very damn good. You've got the trade deadline, which is literally tomorrow. Call the Tennessee Titans and be like, listen, what would it take to get Kevin Zeitler here? Which I'm going to tell you this right now. It's not going to cost a lot. Yeah, sure, you're going to have to pay the remainder of his contract that the Titans already signed him to. Okay, fine. What the hell ever. I don't care. You sign him, you bring him back, and then, okay, now you have that veteran, stable, experienced force in the middle of that offensive line opposite of what you have remaining. Because let's think about it. With Mahogany now gone, you've got all these other guys that you got to potentially think, okay, who's the best option that we can fill in at that guard position? And I'm going to tell you this right now. I don't want to be a person of like, well, I'm going to try and pick the lesser of the whatever evils I've got, or I'm going to try and pick the best of the worst options that I have. Screw that. Go out and trade a 4th, a 5th, a 6th, a 7th, I don't care. Some of those picks to go and get his ass back here. Because let's understand something here. When you had him last year, this offensive line was better. It was one of the best in the league. Now, granted, that was also having Frank Ragnow in the fold. But we ain't getting Frank Ragnow back, so forget that thought process. But if you bring back Kevin Zeitler and you put him next to Graham Glasgow, that's going to make Graham Glasgow better. Which then means, hey, you know what? The rest of the offensive line does better. Now, I know some people are going to say, well, wait a minute here, David. Kevin Zeitler plays right guard. Tate Ratledge plays right guard. That means you're going to have to move Tate Ratledge probably to left guard. So what? Literally, so the hell what? Tate Ratledge is a guy that literally has played every single interior offensive line position. He played left guard, he's played right guard, he's played center. Move his ass to left guard, get him in a position to where you can start playing there, and you move forward from there because Tate Ratledge is going to be better than any left guard backup that you've got right now. Absolutely going to be better. So then, once you have Kevin Zeitler at right guard, you have Graham Glasgow at center, and you have Tate Ratledge at left guard, now you actually have a semblance of a decent interior offensive line. And I'm going to tell you this right now. Sure as God made little green apples, you have that interior offensive line stabilized, oh my God, it's going to help out the tackles. It's going to help out Penei Sewell. It's going to help out Taylor Decker. Once that entire offensive line is stabilized as an entire unit, everything starts working. Everything starts getting better. It's kind of hard to try and get the offensive going, or the offensive attack going, pardon me, if you cannot get the blocking you need up front. This offense is complicated, but the other thing about it is it requires tip-top offensive line play in order for it to work. And at best, over the course of this season so far, we've seen above average. We have not come close to elite offensive line play yet. So for me, you trade Kevin Zeitler back here to Detroit. You give up a 4th or a 5th, a 6th, maybe a 6th and a 7th, or a 5th and a 7th. I don't care. Piddling's change in total actuality to what kind of value he would bring coming back here. You bring back a guy who knows the playbook, he knows the culture, he knows the guys because, oh, that's right, he was here last year. It is a literal plug and play. You put him back in the position that he was playing last year. You keep most of the same playbook because that's what John Morton is saying that we're doing. We're keeping primarily the same playbook. We're keeping primarily the same plays. We're just changing a couple of little things here and there. So it's like, listen, you've only been gone for literally what? A couple of months? It should all still be pretty fresh up there. You bring him back in, you plug him in, boom. You've got yourself an instant solution. You've got yourself a guy who can stabilize the interior of that offensive line. You've then got a guy who, when the offensive line is stabilized, the rest of the offense should do better. Now, understand what I say there. I'm not saying overnight it's going to go from being, the absolute crap show that it's been the last couple of weeks to then all of a sudden we're back to what we were doing, against the Bears 52-21. I would still expect it's probably going to take at least a game or two before we actually start seeing the effects. But if you seriously want to try and talk about fixing the offense, it's not at this point just talking about, we need to tighten up some concepts, we need to tighten a bolt here, we need to refine this, fine-tune that. No. It's more than that. You need the players in order to make this damn thing work. And since Christian Mahogany is going to be gone long term, you need to find a guy who can fill in long term. You need to find a guy who can come in and can actually be that stabilizing force in the interior of that offensive line, so that way we can still keep trying to move forward. If you don't, I'm going to be honest with you, I don't see how the Lions go anywhere this year. I'll be honest, I don't. The offensive line is where everything starts for this offense. And if your offense cannot do what it needs to do, it all falls back on the fact that the offensive line is not doing its primary job, which is opening up rushing lanes for the running backs and keeping the quarterback safe. And let's think about it. It was a perfect example, a perfect case study yesterday that showed that. We ran the ball 20 times. Only got, 63, 65 yards rushing? That's ass. That's terrible. That's putrid. This is an offense that is used to running the ball 100-plus yards every damn game. Jared Goff was sacked 5 times. 5! That is not a world you want to live in with this offense. You need tip-top offensive linemen to make sure that the offense is doing its job. Mahogany's going to come back at some point, but you know what? It's like, listen, you get injured, you're going to lose your job. You're going to have to regulate yourself back to being a backup for the time being. Take that time to not only get healthy, but to learn, to get better. Because I'm going to be honest, if it's between Tate Ratledge and Chris Mahogany, who's been the better guard so far this year, it's definitely been Ratledge in my opinion. He's had to learn a lot faster, and he's had to have his growing pains be a little bit more extreme at times. But Tate Ratledge is a better guard right now in terms of his size, in terms of what he's been able to do, and in terms of the fact that, hey, you know what? When he's been working opposite of Penei Sewell, that helps. So it's like, okay, you bring back Kevin Zeitler, who Penei Sewell played with a whole year. That means now the right side of that offensive line is going to be the strong side. That now means you can run the ball better. That means you can get better pass protection. That means now the entire offense is going to open up again, slowly but surely. That's why the Lions have got to bring him back. Because if you don't, you're now looking at the next 7 games, next 7, 8, 9 games, whatever the hell it is, until the playoffs get here, you're going to have to struggle just to try and get anywhere. Even when Christian Mahogany was out there, we were struggling. Now you're looking at the prospect of a backup that's going right next to a tackle that's struggling because of the fact that he's been dealing with a shoulder injury that keeps flaring up all year. I don't want to deal with that. That will now mean the entire left side of the offensive line, the blind side, which is Goff's blind side, is now going to be completely vulnerable. No, sir. That is not a world I want to live in. Because now it means this. You're going to have to go with more jumbo packages to help provide more, pass protection on the left-hand side. It means you're going to have to go with more 2 tight end sets, potentially more 2 running back sets. You're going to further constrain and limit the offense because instead of allowing it to be opened up with more wide receiver formations, with more looks like that to get them free, you're going to have to shrink it down so that way you can provide more interior pass blocking protection or more run block protection instead of actually doing what this offense we know can do. Trading for one guy like Kevin Zeitler could bring a massive bonus for the Lions. It could bring a massive boon in an area where they're clearly struggling. So Brad Holmes, if you're going to make a trade, by all that is holy in this world, trade for Kevin Zeitler. Bring him back. You already brought him in once for a free agency contract. You let him go. Bring him back with a trade. It's not going to cost you a whole hell of a lot. And it could really help the season out for the remainder of the season. Bring him back. I implore you, please. Having said that, I've gotten my point out with this episode, so I'm going to end it and say thank you all for watching at another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. If you like what you saw, by all means, I highly encourage y'all to watch the next episode. Also encourage y'all to do one of these three things: like, comment, and subscribe. If by chance you subscribed in the past and you forgot to do so at the time, or you just subscribed and you not yet had a chance to do so, I want to highly encourage y'all, make sure you hit that bell notification icon so that you guys never miss any more content that I push out. I hope y'all are doing well. Hope y'all got something in your life that makes you happy, makes you smile. God bless, my friends. And until the next time we meet, I'll see you all in the next episode.